Have you ever trusted someone so much, only to find out they were living a double life? Imagine loving someone with all your heart, believing you are their world, only to discover that you were just a part of their story, a side character in their game. This is the insane story of a Korean husband who had the audacity to cheat on his wife, thinking he would never get caught. But when the truth came out, the consequences were beyond anything he could have imagined. Stay till the end, because this story takes a turn that no one saw coming. Ji-won believed she had everything she ever wanted: a loving husband, a peaceful home, and a marriage that others admired. Min-jun was the perfect husband, caring, thoughtful, always making her feel like the center of his world. He would bring her flowers just because, surprise her with little gifts, and whisper sweet words that made her heart flutter. To her, their love was unbreakable, but love can be deceiving. Slowly, the little things that once made Ji-won feel special started disappearing. Min-jun no longer laughed at her jokes the way he used to. His warm hugs became brief, his kisses rushed. At first she thought it was just work stress, but then the late nights became too frequent. His phone was always on silent, and when she asked him why, he simply smiled and said, "It's nothing, you're overthinking." But deep down, Ji-won felt something was wrong. Then came the moment that shattered everything. One evening, as she was folding his jacket, something slipped from the pocket, a small, folded note. Curious, she picked it up and read the words written in neat, feminine handwriting. "I can't wait to see you again." Her breath caught in her throat. Her fingers tightened around the paper. A million thoughts raced through her mind, each one worse than the last. Was this a misunderstanding? A joke? A mistake? Her heart begged her to believe that there was an innocent explanation, but a sinking feeling in her stomach told her the truth she wasn't ready to face. That night, as she lay in bed next to Min-jun, she stared at the ceiling, her mind in turmoil. Every time he turned in his sleep, she flinched, wondering if the arms that once held her so tightly had been holding someone else. Ji-won wanted to believe in him. She wanted to believe that the man she loved could never betray her. But as the hours passed, one painful truth became clear. This was just the beginning of a nightmare she never saw coming. The next morning, Ji-won sat across from Min-jun at the breakfast table, watching him sip his coffee like everything was normal. Her hands trembled as she held the small note between her fingers, her heart pounding in her chest. She took a deep breath and placed the note on the table. Who is she? Min-jun barely glanced at it. He let out a short, dismissive laugh. "You're overthinking again." Overthinking! The words stung like a knife. Ji-won clenched her fists under the table. How easily he brushed off her pain like it didn't even matter. Her voice shook as she spoke again. "I found this in your pocket, Min-jun. Don't lie to me." He sighed, acting annoyed, as if she was the one causing a problem. "It's nothing, Ji-won. Just a co-worker joking around." A joke? Ji-won stared at him, searching his face for any sign of regret, guilt, anything. But all she saw was indifference, a man who didn't even flinch at the thought of hurting his wife. That was when she knew. He wasn't just lying, he had been lying for a long time. That night, as Min-jun slept soundly beside her, Ji-won's mind raced. She needed proof, undeniable proof, and there was only one place to find it. Her hands shook as she reached for his phone, her heart hammering against her ribs. She knew his passcode. He had told her once back when they still trusted each other. Holding her breath, she unlocked the screen, and what she saw made her blood run cold. There they were, messages, pictures, plans. Sweet words that used to belong to her were now being sent to someone else. Promises of love, late-night conversations, their secret meetings disguised as work. Ji-won covered her mouth, her body trembling. She had been living a lie. She could have screamed. She could have shaken him awake and demanded answers. But what was the point? The man lying next to her wasn't the man she had married. He was a stranger. And now she had a choice: continue pretending or finally face the truth. Ji-won felt her heart shatter into 1,000 pieces, but she wiped her tears away. She was done being the helpless, heartbroken wife. Min-jun had lied to her, betrayed her trust, and treated her love like it was nothing. But now it was her turn. She picked up her phone and called the one person she knew she could trust, Soo-ah, her best friend since childhood. "I need your help." Soo-ah, an expert in IT and social media, didn't need an explanation. "Say no more. We're taking him down." The plan was simple but brutal. First, Ji-won collected every single piece of evidence, screenshots of his texts, pictures he had sent to the other woman, and even call logs. Every lie he had ever told was now saved in her phone, waiting to be exposed. Then came the real masterpiece. Ji-won invited Min-jun out for a special dinner at a high-end restaurant, the kind of place they used to go to when they were happy. She acted normal, even affectionate, making him believe she had no idea about his betrayal. But what Min-jun didn't know was that Ji-won had also invited his boss, his closest friends, and a few of his colleagues. Everyone who believed Min-jun was a devoted husband would be there to witness his downfall. As they sat at the beautifully decorated table, Min-jun smiled, clueless about what was coming. Ji-won looked at him, the man who had once been her world, and felt nothing but cold determination. The moment came when Ji-won casually took out her phone and connected it to the restaurant's big screen. Min-jun's smile faltered as messages and photos started appearing in front of everyone. His sweet secret words to another woman, his desperate pleas for secret meetings, the pictures he thought would remain hidden. All of it was now on display. The room went silent. His boss's face twisted in disgust. His friends looked at him like they didn't recognize him. And Min-jun? He turned pale, his hands gripping the table. "Ji-won, She held up a hand, cutting him off. "You lied to me. You cheated on me. And you thought I would never find out." Min-jun's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. But there was none. His double life was over, and everyone saw him for the fraud he was. Ji-won leaned in, looking him dead in the eyes. "Still think I was overthinking?" And with that she stood up, leaving him alone in the mess he had created. This time he was the one left behind. Min-jun sat frozen, his world crumbling around him. His boss shook his head in disappointment. A man who lies in his personal life can never be trusted in business. With those words, Min-jun's career was over. He was fired on the spot. His so-called friends, they avoided his gaze, whispering among themselves. No one wanted to be associated with a man who had been publicly exposed for his lies. Even the other woman, the one he had risked everything for, blocked his number that very night. Min-jun had lost everything in a matter of minutes. But the worst part, Ji-won didn't even look back. She walked out of that restaurant with her head held high, leaving Min-jun drowning in the wreckage of his own betrayal. When he returned home that night, he found the house eerily quiet. Ji-won's belongings were gone. Her clothes, her books, even the framed wedding photo on the nightstand. Everything had disappeared, just like the love she once had for him. A single envelope sat on the dining table. His hands trembled as he picked it up. Inside were divorce papers. A note was attached. "Loyalty was all I ever asked for. Goodbye." For the first time, Min-jun felt the full weight of what he had done. The guilt, the regret, the unbearable loneliness. It all hit him at once. He had thrown away the one person who had truly loved him, thinking he could get away with it. Now, he was left with nothing but the empty silence of a home that no longer felt like his own. Ji-won, on the other hand, felt free. She had spent too much time crying over a man who never deserved her love. Now she was walking away, not as a broken woman, but as someone who had reclaimed her strength. And Minjun, he would spend the rest of his life realizing that losing Ji-won was the biggest mistake he had ever made. Days turned into weeks, and the once confident Minjun became a shadow of himself. The regret weighed on him like a heavy chain, dragging him down with every step. He tried reaching out to Ji-won, sending texts, leaving voicemails, even waiting outside places he knew she visited. But she never responded. She had already moved on. Ji-won wasn't just healing, she was thriving. She had thrown herself into rebuilding her life, filling it with things that brought her happiness. She reconnected with old friends, travelled to places she had always wanted to see, and found joy in simply being free from a love that was never real. One evening, as she walked by the coffee shop where she and Minjun had their first date, she stopped for a moment. The memories were there, but they no longer hurt. Instead, they felt like a past life, one that she had outgrown. Meanwhile, Minjun faced the consequences of his actions every single day. He had lost his job, his friends, and the woman who had once loved him unconditionally. The other woman? She had moved on, finding someone else to entertain her fleeting desires. Minjun was truly alone. For the first time, he understood the depth of what he had destroyed. It wasn't just his marriage, it was the trust, the love, the future that he had taken for granted. And no matter how much he wished he could turn back time, it was too late. Ji-won had closed the chapter on him forever. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about strength. Ji-won walked away, not because she stopped loving Minjun, but because she finally started loving herself more. And that was the most powerful decision she had ever made. If this story shocked you, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments.